Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is Wednesday, the 25th of September. The Knowledge Crew is with us, and we're going to just do a little bit of show and tell, um, obviously, of meteorites. But one thing that we focus on a lot here is rare meteorites, expensive meteorites. Well, today is the opposite. We're going dollar store general. We're going budget. We're showing you can afford the universe for just $1 a gram. So this first one is more than $1 a gram though, and it's not available. So I guess I'm a liar. One of our crew members, I'm going to go ahead and share a screen. One of our crew members, Dr. Yang Shengchun, supports us constantly with samples and just comments and feedback and great information. But today, he has a brand new oriented meteorite that he's going to share with us. And he didn't even put these pictures on Facebook. He honestly contacted me before he even had the stone. I just got this, made the deal on this from Africa. It's on its way. I'm not going to show anyone pictures until it's showed on your show. So congratulations. Here we go, guys. This is a ordinary yet extraordinary 401 gram oriented, and it'll never be classified. Once you see how beautiful this thing is, you know why we would all kill Yang if he put a knife to it. But look at this thing. There are like 7 pictures, I think, and then we have a video. So let me see here. What we are looking at is a heat shield, an oriented heat shield. Does anyone want to describe what oriented means in a minute or less?
Oh, I could try.
I knew that you'd offer. Go for it.
So most meteorites, and they're meteoroids as they're traveling through the atmosphere, tumble. And when they tumble, the ablation effects are kind of spread out all over the stone. When a meteorite is oriented, and by the way, it's not 1 or 0, it's not is it oriented or not oriented. They can show some signs of orientation or extreme signs of orientation. Are meteorites that don't tumble, that always present a front side to the atmosphere. Sometimes they spin along their path, spin side to side along their path, and that's why we get this. So we're at the top of that. We're looking at the leading edge face there, and then the meteorite melts because of the heat of the plasma in front of it as it's compressing the air, and the rock cools itself by ablative cooling. And when they're oriented like this, we can see there's the backside with very thick fusion crust, contraction cracks, bubbles, and then we can see the rollover lip of the melted material. And when they're oriented like this, they create a very low pressure region behind them, and that kind of sucks the stuff ablating off of the front around to the back. So that's why we get that rollover lip. I hope that was less than
Pat, that was 7 seconds too long though. No. One of the things about one of the features that show highly oriented like this, as Pat said, is this rollover where you're getting the ablation and liquid rock coming over from the front and coming on the back. We usually call it a rollover lip, but I'll be honest, man, this one's a rollover flange. It is just. This is a highly oriented one, but look at this entire rollover. This entire area here is all rollover lipping. So a beautiful, beautiful example. And a lot of our viewers will recognize this shape here. This is like the entry of the Apollo returns.
Heat shield.
This heat shield. What was that?
Nope, that's what I just said. Heat shield.
Yeah, so these heat shields were actually studied. The meteorites, highly oriented meteorites like this, were actually studied by NASA to design their return hardware. So for stability in flight, and for you only have to insulate basically majorly the leading edge. You don't have to But this one is absolutely gorgeous. You can see these flow lines always flowing from the high point all the way and then around the back. And then we actually have a video too. And this is just gorgeous.
Yeah, that is a stunning heat shield.
Marco would be envious.
Yeah, Marco in Germany, our guy, you got to join us one of these times, man. Wow, that's crazy, isn't it? It's just look at that one side.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, that must not be classified.
No, not at all. What would you go? Like, where would you cut off, 20% of that thing?
Your armor first.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we call a hard rollover lip too, where you can see a dividing line like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, where it
Just-
goes in, it like goes in like a quarter of an inch or so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Just an absolute beautiful, beautiful meteorite. And it's super hard to get these flow lines photographed completely because you really have to play with the light. But yeah, Yang did a great
That's
job.
good.
Thanks for sharing this with us, buddy. We really appreciate you allowing us to show it off first.
That's got some interesting cracks in there.
Yeah, beautiful. Like the backside here is even beautiful as well. It has the contraction cracks in it. But
Yep.
look at the frozen in time liquid rock, all the bubbles in a hard rollover lip. Yeah, just
Frothiness.
yeah,
This is
absolutely beautiful.
This is
We
pretty
would call that
sizable
a-
to show that much of a heat shield too. You can see this sometimes in smaller stones, but you said it was over 400 grams.
Yeah, 441
wow.
grams.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
yeah,
remarkable.
and just so you know, there's another one that Yang wants to share with us. It's an iron. It was a really, really crappy video that I saw from the African selling it. But Yang's gonna, when he gets it later this week or next week, he's gonna be shooting videos and pictures just like this and sharing them with us. So I'm really thankful that we have Yang on our crew. Oh, he's not able to join us. Great supporter and aficionado of beautiful meteorites. So I cannot wait to see that iron that you have coming. This one, classy, classy. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. We are going, wow, we got a lot of people with their hands up. This is amazing. Let's see if we can run through this without any edits. Mike Kelly, how are you, sir? Glad to have you on.
Doing good. Can you all hear me okay?
You
Yeah.
bet.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So I know you wanted to just see some cheap budget type meteorites that are still fun. So I pulled out a couple boxes. I got plenty of boxes of unclassified, and I got a whole box of 869. And these are some of the cooler ones that are relatively cheap and kind of neat.
Now, Mike, can I interject and just for our newer viewers who may not know what 869, that's NWA 869, and it's classified as a LL3
L3 through 6.
Yeah.
L3 through 6. Yep. So the first couple I wanted to show off were just a couple of NWAs. And so this is a nice
Oh, I'm
shapely.
showing off the wrong camera. I apologize. Hold on.
No problem.
There we go.
So this is a nice shapely unclassified. It's got good crust. This is just kind of a piece I like to carry around. So if I want to show people what a meteorite looks like, this is the one I gotta go to. It's a very nice piece there. This was only a couple bucks a gram, about $2 a gram. And this was kind of amazing because this is a beautiful little shield.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And you can't beat that price on it. There's the backside.
Wow, a little
got some
baby
nice-
one of what we just saw.
Yep. Some
I
nice
fully
little
expected
rollover
that
look
to
on
be a
it.
slice.
Nope.
Mhm.
Beautiful little shield.
Wow.
You don't have to stick to just the ordinary chondrites if you're looking for unclassified meteorites that are beautiful. This is an achondrite. It's probably a howardite, maybe a diagonite, but it's just got the best shiny fusion crust on it for a unclassified piece. And just it's nice, a couple bucks a gram. You got to look around for the deals. So that's a good unclassified.
Mike, before we get away from that achondrite for a second, because I'd like to, I always want to keep it at base level. Can you explain unclassified versus authentic? Or
Sure, unclassified versus classified. So if you want a meteorite to be officially classified, you cut a specimen off of it. It's either 20% or 20 grams, whichever is less, and you send it into a university or an organization that is approved to classify meteorites. They take that sample, they analyze it, and they submit their findings to the Meteoritical Society. And once it gets published, it goes into the Met Bowl, and that is now an official meteorite, so it's classified. So, like you mentioned, NWA 869. So all those pieces in there are all different pieces of NWA 869, and they've all gone through classification. So they've been scientifically put into the L3 through 6 petrology type, L ordinary chondrite, and that is what a classified meteorite is. These have all
can I
not gone through
piggyback
there.
off of that for 1 second, Mike?
Certainly.
Because I think it's really, we need to be very cautious when we're telling our viewers to go out there and buy unclassified meteorites, because we need to caveat that and bookend it by saying from a trusted meteorite dealer. Okay. This buy from me, buy from someone else, buy from a trusted known source, especially if you're going unclassified, because I get offered a lot of unclassified meteorites every day that I wouldn't spend a cent on. So just wanted to put that warning out there, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, no, very great advice. And you know what I always say is, if you're new into it and you're looking for unclassified pieces, ask somebody who's been doing it for a while. You know, there's plenty of people in the hobby who will give you an opinion on things, whether it's a good deal, a bad deal, pass, buy, you know, reputable dealers, stuff like that. There's plenty of people who will help you out, especially on the crew. So this was a 869, and one of the things about NWA 869 is it does have that classic kind of melted, almost concrete looking areas to it. And this was a whole stone, and I picked it up because the exterior was interesting. You can see on the left side it's got contraction cracks on it, and on the right side it had none.
Yeah.
And that actually corresponded to the fact that the
Wow.
melt part, when it ablated, created contraction cracks, I guess based on the composition, whereas the unmelted part of it did not.
So you
So
think that's more compositional than aerodynamic entry?
yes, the
Okay.
fact that you had contraction on the left side of it, not on the right, was definitely based on what was melting inside. So
Okay.
that's an interesting piece. And again, you know, NWA 869, like 50 cents a gram, $1 a gram. You know, this is not a huge stone. It's a small stone with some great features to it. This was picked up at a rock shop in a bin of NWA 869s. The funny thing about this one is 3 other very reputable and very big collectors went through that bin, and I went through last. And I flipped this guy over,
Oh,
Wow.
and it
Nice.
was still
Holy
sitting in there.
mackerel.
Again, that's oriented heat shield at 50 cents a gram.
Wow.
Again, not a huge meteorite, but you know, you can't beat the features on there.
Mike, Pat mentioned how an oriented heat shield is created. How rare is that you find one like that in a bin?
There was probably, you know, 300 pieces in that bin, and I picked out that one and one other oriented one, and that bin had probably been picked over several times. So it's pretty rare, but again, it was in a rock gift shop up in Herkimer, New York.
Wow, that's awesome.
And,
Thank you.
Yep. The last piece I just want to show off is, again, you can get classified pieces like we mentioned that are cheap per gram. At the beginning of the show, we had talked about eucrites coming down. So this is a nice full slice of Jakara. And again, Jakara, eucrite, it's going, you know, sliced $1 a gram maybe. You can get it cheaper if you're lucky. So again, you can afford nice big slices like this without breaking the bank for collectors who are just getting into it or on a budget.
Thank you. And Mike, one of the reasons why the 2 that you have chosen as your budget entry level ones are budget and entry level is because of the mass, the weight, the tonnage of these. NWA 869 has been around for many years, and there's a lot of it. And there's a lot of other meteorites that have been found and classified on their own, but are really NWA 869s. So there's a lot of it out there. Also, Jakara, yeah, it's a Vestoid, it's a Eucrite. So it's usually going to be more expensive, but there's so much of it. 3 tons of that stuff was found. 3 tons. So that's why we say, or Mike was saying, Jakara 001 Eucrite, because when you go after that exact meteorite name, there's a plethora of it on the market right now, and we have a crap ton of it in our inventory. And it varies. There's a lot of diversity in the slices and the stones. So you can actually pick for one that fits your eye as well as your budget. So, Mike, thank you very, very much. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, thanks for letting me show.
Can I add one thing about Jakara? Because you just mentioned that a lot of it's in our inventory, and we do have a lot of it, and we have a variety of it. It's probably going to be more than $1 a gram in our inventory. It's probably up, between $1.50 and $2 a gram. But if you are going to make an investment in Jakara, our slices have been cut and polished by, I think, Space Jewels. Topher, you might have done some of them too, and Chris Monk might have done some of them, but these have been worked on by people who are like artisans with their saws, and these are absolutely beautiful slices. So they're still really affordable. They've just been brought to the very next level. So that's all.
And if you really wanted some more motivation, you could look at it as a charitable donation to what we're doing here when you spend just 10% extra to buy our meteorites, because no one else is doing what we're doing, adding this value. Commercial over. Dave Pinsky's up on deck. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. I'm going to continue with the unclassified. Okay, here it is. So this is a unclassified slice. I bought this actually from Topher Spin Meteorites.
Oh, thanks.
And I highly recommend it because you get some really interesting stuff along with it.
I know exactly which one that is.
Yes. Yeah, this is unofficially classified as NWA Galactic Love. So, but I want to add something about starting your collection with unclassifieds. It's a really good way to inexpensively get an idea of what a meteorite looks like if you want to actually go out and look for them. Because a lot of times when you're starting out, something that looks like an unusual rock, well, the first thing you'll think about is, oh, maybe it's a meteorite. But when you start to develop a little bit of a collection at first with some of these unclassifieds, there aren't, a lot of times they're unclassified because they're reasonably weathered, and it may not be worth spending the effort to get what's maybe a common or ordinary chondrite classified. And so you actually see them as they would in the field. So maybe not a lot of slice like that you're going to find, but you at least can see what the interior looks like. And if you get yourself a complete stone that is unclassified, it's going to have a lot of characteristics of what you're going to possibly see in the field. And it's going to get your eye tuned to what you're really looking for. So it's a really good way to just start out with meteorites, and then you just can go from there. So this one is an ordinary chondrite. It's probably something like an L5 or 6. It doesn't have a lot of iron in it, and I like it. It's some of my favorite meteorites are in my collection are unclassified. They're just beautiful meteorites, and the only thing different is that they just haven't been classified as.
And Dave, maybe we can have a small conversation about that. Like when the 869s that were just shown, they're classified, but those exact stones have never been to a lab. So it's a little bit confusing for some people when they say like this is an unclassified meteorite, or it's a classified meteorite. That doesn't necessarily mean that exact piece, that sample went to the lab. It means it came from a lot that the sample was chosen from. And you were talking about sometimes they're not classified. So one of the reasons why they would not be classified is exactly the opposite of what I just said on the other one with the well, not Garora, the Eucrite, Jakara. With the Jakara, there's so much of it. With maybe they're out there and they find 1 or 2 stones and they're small like this. Well, they're still meteorites, but you can't really get them. There's no benefit to get them classified. And exactly as you said, especially if it's an ordinary chondrite.
Correct, yeah, there, a lot of them, like the 869, was a massive find. When it first came on the market, I remember there was literally a huge trash can full of stones. And I think that's the most meteorites I saw in one place. And they were selling them at the time for like 25 cents a gram. And I just was like a kid in a candy store. Ooh, I like that. I have a bunch of them that are still sitting down here in the other box. No, those weren't each classified, but that was from the same, probably, not fall because nobody saw it fall, but when it did fall, it was probably a massive amount, and they just found them. And they all do have a similar characteristic in terms of their exterior, but there's a great variety of what they look like when you cut them and open them up.
Especially with the classification of 3 through 6, there's a lot of different variety in them as well.
And sometimes you're going to see 2 different or 3 different types in one stone when you cut it. I have one that is like part of it is like a 4 and the other part's like a 6. And it's an unusual meteorite in that sense. It's one of my favorites. They're really, really interesting.
That is awesome. Thank you very much for sharing your budget meteorite with us. Really appreciate it, man. And extra bonus points for being one of mine. We have Getty on deck. Getty, glad that you're able to join us today, man.
Made it home just in time. So yeah, glad to be here with you all.
Very nice.
All right, so let me flip my camera around here. All right, so we're talking budget, we're talking oriented. This is a meteorite known as Gadamus or Hama El Habra, I think it is, HAH 346. This is a possible observed fall from 2018. There's been a lot of debate about whether it is actually observed, whether it was not observed. They saw a fireball. They later found freshly crusted stones. But I think the Met Bowl just doesn't really like the idea of, I don't know exactly why they didn't classify it as an observed fall, but it's a possible fall. That said, this is perfect for what you want for a meteorite. It's got obvious fresh black fusion crust. It's an L6, so if you have any breaks, you can see what the inside of that meteorite looks like. Here, honestly, it's nothing terribly exciting, but you get to see where the fusion crust is, where the fusion crust isn't. It's just a really great way to visualize a stone. This one is 95.2 grams. I think it was like $60. There's so much of this material when it first came out, you couldn't find anything less than like a kilogram, because there was just so much of it. They didn't even bother picking up the small ones. Went back later, that's when these small ones started getting on the market. You can find them anywhere from like 70 cents to $2 a gram, I think. But yeah, you can see it's got a lot of really nice features, just really great fusion crust. And talking potentially oriented, as Pat Brown was saying earlier, it's not 0 or 1, it's not binary. There's kind of a continuum. Gadamus is known for mostly being kind of blocky and not really having a lot of features, not really deep regmaglyphs or a lot of oriented pieces. But this one, if we can see, does show some signs of orientation. It does have some radial flow lines right along the outside. Come over here, again, some more potential radial flow lines all coming out. So this one probably was not oriented for most of the flight, but potentially got oriented near the end, creating those flow lines. I don't know if we can, if I highlight it here, if we can see those a little bit better with some side lighting. But all
It's
in all,
really nice when you can see them and trace them back and they go around the regmaglyphs or divot into the regmaglyphs, and you know that that's the flow line for sure.
Exactly. I think that shows it pretty well there.
Yeah, look on the backside of it there, too. Wow.
But then we don't have any rollover lip, unfortunately. But this is probably the backside, the negative face. Little bit of regmaglyphting here. Nothing super oriented, except for those flow lines, which is not common on Gadamas. So that's really nice. But as
Yeah.
far as like, if you want a classified, cheap, it's a meteorite. I really think that HAH 346 is one of the top ones that you can get for a really good price. And smaller pieces are on the market now.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, and I appreciate that recommendation because we have a lot of it in our inventory just because it's affordable, it's beautiful. And one thing you kind of didn't tag on the end, I'm calling it a witness fall, a probable witness fall. So that's another thing that's interesting to me is when you know that, hey, X amount of time ago this was floating in space and now it's in my hand. So very interesting and a very affordable meteor. Again, one with a substantial amount of weight to it. So
Absolutely.
all right, Getty, thank you very, very much, man.
Thank you, Topher.
We got Cliff on deck. How you doing, Cliff?
Doing well, thank you. This dusting off the camera here a little bit here, so let's see if I can keep the streak going. So this will look fairly familiar. You're gonna.
Oh, is that another HANA 346 from us?
No, this
No?
is Elmenia.
Armenia. Okay.
So this is a recent L5 witnessed fall, and this one, it's not. It's not quite 100% crusted. You can see the little breakouts there. The fusion crust on this is spectacular. It's about as good as any I've ever seen, and it's not in the theme of inexpensive meteorites. This one isn't really inexpensive in the sense of being less than $1 a gram. I think it's running about what is it, Topher, $5 or $6 a gram right now?
Yeah, it's not that bad, especially because, well, I was offered to come in as one of the main mass holders when it was first available, and it was about that price for us to walk in and buy it all. So yeah, it's about that, if not a little bit lower.
Wow.
Really pretty little regmaglyphs on
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, right in the back there. The I wish that there we go. Maybe they're showing a little better now.
Yeah.
But right in that area, and it's this one must have. That's why I was so surprised at Dr. Yang's large oriented piece, because when they get larger, they tend to tumble a little more on average, and you don't see as many of those big oriented ones. This one, kind of like HA 346, it's there's a little bit more features to it, I think, than that one. But I haven't seen a whole lot of features on a lot of these. This does have those two grooved areas where the plasma carved into it. And I don't know how the aerodynamics of that worked in just that one spot, but it is really neat. That one, that was, if the theme was looking good versus dollars per gram, that was the looking good. Here's the dollars per gram.
Wow.
So this is, in fact, an actual classified main mass meteorite. Sahara 99745 is pre-NWA. It's from some of the earlier expeditions into Africa, and the before they came up with the NWA nomenclature, they just labeled their stones. I believe this is just the year 1999, and then the 745th stone that they came across.
I think
not
it was
all
Luke Laban specifically used Sahara nomenclature.
Okay, thank you. So they have there a lot of these are unclassified. You do see individual stones. I actually have a number of them that haven't been classified yet. I don't know what the criteria they selected were, but this one happens to be one of the ones where they did take a sample and classify it.
Yeah.
So we have a cut face.
Wow, that's an H.5, isn't it?
It is an H.
Wow.
Yep. So this one's a little bit deceiving. The exterior, I mean, it's certainly not bad. It's for a weathered chondrite, but the interior hides its real beauty. And I kind of this is in fact a main mass stone. So if you go into the Met Bowl and you look up the Sahara number, which
It
I
doesn't have it
specify
anymore.
hid.
Magic, it's
You-
gone.
Yeah, it's like the leprechaun's gold. It's the last face. So if you actually go into the Met Ball and you look up that number, you will find a description in the meteoritic bulletin itself that is actually specific to this individual stone, which I always thought was really cool. You know, we talked earlier about how most of the inexpensive material you can get is part of a much larger fall, which is why it's inexpensive, because it has availability. So this as a type is common, but as an individual stone that is tied to a specific entry in the Met Bowl, there's only but so many of those. I mean, we're adding more, but you know, for the Sahara stones in particular, that the use of that nomenclature is over. So there's only so many of these, only so many of those were classified. This is one of them, but it was still less than $1 a gram. So, and you know, just happens to be really pretty on the inside too, just as a bonus.
Amazing. I was actually gonna pull out I have a Sahara main mass that I was gonna pull
Oh,
out
is that
and show
handy?
tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna pull it out and show it tonight, but I honestly didn't want to go through the whole explanation about Sahara and all and the
Oh.
pre NWAs, but you did a great job. So I actually might pull that out.
Go for
But
it.
just I want everyone to keep in mind that's watching this on YouTube. We are talking about like the crew is kind of a bunch of maniacs who scour for deals, and then we pounce like a leopard when there is a good deal. So when we're saying, hey, you can, you know, I got this one and it's a super low price, you may not be able to get that price. Okay. That's our
true.
experience.
Yes.
But when we're saying that, hey, I have it in stock and I'm saying this is what it costs, that's a trustworthy number. But I don't want you to get someone else's snipe and come to my store and think you're gonna get that price, because
Yeah.
I'm realistic
that-
about what I have.
Yeah,
You guys are also talking Tucson show prices
Yes,
too.
yeah.
Yes, that was luck. So the one other one, you go from Africa to Chile. This is one of the Atacama stones. Pre-recording, we were discussing somebody who was looking at going on an expedition to the Atacama Desert. These stones from the Atacama kind of have a characteristic. The environment's very stable, at least you know for something that's non-Antarctic. Very dry, and meteorites will sit on the surface a very long time. So the density there is pretty good, and you can get good quality stones from that desert that are weathered, technically speaking, but don't show a lot of damage, you know, from that weathering. You notice this stone doesn't show a lot of cracking or any particular, you know, it's the interior is pretty nice.
It may
But
be
if you-
weathered, but it's not cracky.
Correct. If you look on the exterior, you can see it's had an encounter with nature. You know, it's been on the surface, but it didn't extend to the exterior, and it didn't. Now the Atacama stones will eventually. I mean, it's not absolutely zero humidity. If they sit there long enough, they will eventually develop cracks and such. I've got one that does have cracking in it, but some of the science that they've done on some of the stones on that surface say they can get up to a million years old and still be recognizable as meteorites. I believe the upper end estimate for Northwest Africa is 40,000 years. So Pat might be able to correct me if I have that wrong, but that gives you some idea of what that environment's like. So this is another main mass chondrite. This is an H. And it's Catalina 699 is the number on this one. The advantage that this one had, not only is it a main mass, but it also has an in situ photograph with fine coordinates. So it's documented exactly where it came from, and they took a picture of it in its environment before they collected it. So it's about as documented as you can get for this kind of stone.
Yeah, that's a bonus for sure.
And it's not all of the finders will do that. Northwest Africa, it's not typical unless except in special circumstances for them to have such detailed information. But some of the expeditions to the Atacama are willing to provide that information for at least for some of the stones, and this happened to be one of them. So again, it's as Topher said earlier, with a caveat, it's this for me. I happen to find one at less than $1 a gram. I don't know if that. I think I've found 2 or 3 of these at $1 a gram. My guess is in a more typical retail setting would probably be higher because of the documentation. It's a main mass, but nevertheless,
It's
for
not
what
$20
is
a gram.
correct, and that was the criteria, was if
Yeah.
we're not talking $20 a gram or
Yep.
or up from there for the really high end ones.
Yeah.
And this gives you, for a relatively inexpensive price, a really nice chunk of material. You can
Yeah.
hold this in your hand and you can feel the weight to it. So it's a
Yeah.
visceral tactile experience that I really enjoy.
Wow.
Okay, thanks,
Such
Topher.
such good words, man. Like you're a thesaurus over there. I'm
So if
gonna
I could
show
jump
off.
in.
What's that?
If I could jump in really quickly, just one thing I want to highlight from what Cliff was just saying there with the Almenia. A great thing about that one, right? We're talking Ha 346 being, really cheap but nice and fresh. The Almenia, some of the best crust out there that you can get. And yeah, it's $5, $6, $8 a gram, but there are a lot of little pieces which make it affordable. So you can get a really high quality meteorite. 10 grams, 20 grams, you're under $100.
Yeah.
And you see,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a decent chunk of space, and it's
Mhm.
just beautiful stuff. So
Yeah.
that's the other thing. It's either there's a ton of it and you can get it for cheap with a big honking rock, or there's a lot of little pieces, and even if it's a little bit more, you can get a beautiful piece that's small at a decent price.
Yeah,
and they're
absolutely.
easier to store too.
That they are, yes.
Yeah. This is I'm just gonna run through these real quickly because I just wanted to show 869 up close because it is one of our featured meteorites for today. And it's beautiful. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on in there. This one is just under 62 grams. But the external, you're not going to see, well, it's always possible, but don't plan on seeing a fusion crust at 869 because that's not, especially not at the budget prices we're talking about. But look at that hunk of metal sticking right there. But yeah, just absolutely beautiful on the interior, full of chondrules and metal. And you can see there's definitely some like L3 material down in here. All these little small ones. Yeah, there's a lot going on in these, and you can get lost inside of it. This is another one, and this is pretty cool. When it does have fusion crust on an 869, it's going to be a little bit older, not as glossy as the Almania that was just shown to us. But here's a patch of fusion crust. I would call this fusion crust because it's not as shiny as desert varnish, but beautiful on the interior as well. And again, this is NWA 869, a dollar, $1.50 a gram, whatever, something like that. But look, you can really see the small little chondrules in there making the L3, and then larger ones making up to L6. So very interesting and very affordable. This one was just under 85 grams. So, all right, those are the two that I wanted to show off. Now we've had Pat Brown's hand up for a while, and I'm hoping it has something to do with not chondrites.
Yeah, so we see orientation in other meteorites as well. This is a nickel iron meteorite. This is Socotoline, and this is a kind of a modified shield shape. Socotoline is a very coarse Widmanstätten pattern, and so these dents are the grain boundaries. But we see the radiating flow lines coming out in all directions there. And here's the backside, and we do see a rollover lip around the backside. Here's
Pat,
another one.
Can you flip that one over again one more time? This is a great example of the thing I mentioned earlier about the flow lines coming out of regmaglyphs.
Yes.
That's a great example.
And all radiating from a central point there as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. And then this is another Socotoline. We're looking at the backside and the rollover lip around it.
Nice.
And the front side is very rounded. And as we look at the edges, they may not be coming through real good, but there's there's rollover lip and radiating flow lines on that one too. And then, we talked about orientation as
wow.
being a continuum. This is a hyper-oriented meteorite in that the front side formed a great big rollover lip on the sides. And then the back part of it is just a bullet shaped.
I don't know. We always call this one the bullet, but I think when you flip it over, I think we're calling it the ice cream cone from now on.
Yeah, it's a
I-
melting ice cream cone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow,
Ice cream
man.
And
cone
this-
or mop top or
This, by the way, is an extremely high end.
Yeah.
this one
Yeah. Pat has taken us out of our budget conversation back into our oriented conversation.
yes, but back to the budget side of things. My countertop here is a ordinary chondrite type 3 and possibly a subtype. This is one that I cut on the wire saw, and this was $1 a gram meteorite that I cut it.
That's good.
And
I'd like to stay on that one for 1 second, Pat.
sure.
If you like the look of this meteorite, because it's unclassified, so you can't get another one like that unless you know where that one came from. But if you want something that looks like this and is classified as a L and subtype, potentially as a L 3.6, you know what I'm talking about, Pat? It's a Witness
Yep.
Fall.
Yep.
Abba
Abapanu.
Panu. Yep.
Yep.
So Abba Panu is another one that was a Witness Fall, beautiful meteorite, a good amount of it around, and a stable price. So
Yes.
if this is the kind of meteorite slice that you're looking for, Abba Panu is what you're looking for. Pat, back to you, man.
Right. And then, of course, my thing is buying unclassified meteorites, mostly from Northwest Africa direct. This one's about 2 kilograms, but it was on the order of $1 a gram. And finally, this one is another probably type 3, maybe type 4, but this was also about $1 a gram meteorite. Now, the wire saw adds a little cost to that, but a bunch of our meteorites look like this inside. So,
And again, I'm going to put the caveat out there. Pat, you've been involved in meteorites for over 2 decades now. That's why I know when I feel confident when I hear that my friend is buying rocks from some Algerian guy. I'm not stressed about it. I know you do know what you're doing, but I do want to put the caveat out there. Like, buy from a trusted source. If you don't know what you're doing and haven't handled meteorites for years, you probably shouldn't be conducting business directly with someone in Africa because it's impossible to get your money back. Most people are very honest and they're not trying to take your money. But if you don't know what you're doing and you happen to run into someone who's trying to take your money, it's not going to be pretty. Pat, did you have anything else to share with us?
high risk, high reward buying directly from Africa. Yeah. And yeah, you always have to know your dealer.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, you have more of a chance of getting ripped off buying directly because of your incompetence rather than anyone being untoward. There's a lot of people selling rocks and they honestly believe what they're selling is a meteorite. And if you don't know any better to educate them or not make a miseducated decision, you're going to get taken advantage of. So,
all true.
Pat, thank you very much for sharing that with us, man.
Thank you.
Stephen Amera in the house and awake.
Hello.
Hello, buddy.
How are you?
Good to see you, man. Very well.
Good to see you too. I just wanted to share one of my unclassified purchases. This was posted publicly for sale on Facebook in one of the meteorite groups, and that's probably a good place for people to look often if they want to pick up material for a reasonable price. But this is a 2.6 kilo unclassified chondrite, but it's also shield. There's a little bit of regamaglyphs right there. it's hard to capture it with the shadow, and then up there,
Oh, we can see it.
um,
Yeah.
No, it's
Oh, yeah.
distinct. I like it.
It shows.
it's difficult to hold. But
How's
also
the
it has the magnetic susceptibility, I believe, is somewhere in the L range. I'd have to double check. But there's some radials flowing over the top there, covered by caliche. And then also there's a ton of radials that wrap around this side of the stone.
Oh, wow.
And everybody always asks to see the backside of an oriented stone, and this one is fortunately complete.
Go back for 1 second where your thumb is right now. Is right where your thumb is that a hitchhiker?
I guess it very well could be.
We
I
say
apologize.
that hitchhikers are very rare and hard to find. This may be a good candidate. It's hard to tell right now, but an oriented meteorite, by definition, is going slower than other meteor. An oriented meteor is going slower than meteors around it because it is compacting the air. It is in its aerodynamic form. So other little rocks can come from behind and plant themselves on the back of this liquid rock.
Absolutely. And this one may be like sulfides right there bubbling out, but that could very well be it's leftover of a hitchhiker. It's just been sand ablated. But so nobody loses faith about oriented stones and being expensive. I was able to pick this up publicly on Facebook at 28 cents a gram.
Oh man.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah.
It has a great shape. I love it.
Can you explain to us why, like right there, it's chocolate and vanilla?
Chocolate and vanilla? Sure.
Yeah, why is there a line on that thing, man?
So I'm assuming that the stone was found in the desert, and below this line right here is all underneath the surface. And this side right here, where it's almost like a polished appearance, is where it's been sand ablated from the wind carrying the sand over it. So it got polished and removes any potentially secondary crust or whatever. And this right here is caliche, and that's from the reaction of like moisture and the soil content hardening and cementing to the stone. And then this side, that was protected underneath the surface. That's just a beautiful patina over fusion crust that is still fully intact.
Stephen, this is exactly, you're showing exactly what we wanted to see. If you notice on this side, there's a little bit of shininess to it, a tiny sheen, if you will. But you mentioned it's fusion crust, and we can see flow lines there. Now, please flip it over, if you will.
Sure.
Do you see how now there's not a sheen on this black part, the dark part? It is flooded with light. It is highly, highly reflective. We have changed from fusion crusts with patina on the bottom to desert varnish on the top. And that desert varnish, as you said, was exposed to the elements. And I would say one of the more effective elements at getting it to where it is now baked like that and sheen would be the sun. So that goes exactly what you were saying about its orientation in the ground, that black dark top sticking up. And that's been varnished by the desert and sun and wind and sand, like you mentioned, but the bottom side is still protected and not as shiny. So when you're looking at samples, make sure you have to train your eye. When is it shiny? When is it a sheen? A sheen is on fusion crust, shininess is on desert varnish, and those are my words. So
absolutely. And a lot of times with the desert varnish, because the crust is removed, you'll be able to see the matrix of the meteorite. Like you'll be able to see the chondrules and the metal. Like you'll be able to see some metal right here. There's a little metal bleb in front of my thumb that's popping out. Versus the fusion crust on chondrites, which is usually opaque versus translucent, like some of the HEDs.
great example, great show and tell, and a great man. Thank you so much, big guy. We love having you on the show when you're able to make it.
You're welcome. Glad to be
And-
here.
And for those on YouTube who don't watch us every single week, I know who you are. Whoops, sorry. Stephen is an accomplished meteorite hunter. Spent 10 years hunting and finally found the largest meteorite ever officially classified in his home state of Massachusetts. So Barnstable, and you're looking at the man there. So we like to really give you experienced, knowledgeable people when possible. I'm not it. I have to rely on my crew. And, you know, Pat's scientific. We have Mike Kelly, who's very scientific. We have experienced cutters and polishers and things like that. But we also have experienced hunters. So, Stephen, thank you very much for showing us that sample. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I had a
our
great time
last-
talking about it.
Yeah, thanks, man. Our last person for the night, Mr. Jim Shelton, so patient with his hand up. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. Thanks for asking. 7 years ago, I was looking for a hand sample to use for outreach. And I was able to purchase this from a very reputable dealer in Australia. It's a NWA. It was unclassified when I bought it. And you can see it's a hand sample because there it is. There it is in my hand. I did have it classified, and they took a slice off here. Ended up it was H4. And I just dropped my magnet. I was going to put, here's another magnet. And this is 866 grams now. It was a kilo when I bought it. And I'm showing this as a budget meteorite because I know my hand's in the way. Let me get out of the way. This, sorry to beat your price, Stephen, but this was 17 cents a gram.
Nice.
Nice. How many years ago was this?
7 years ago.
Okay.
So was this your first classification?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it came out NWA 15804. And you might think the price is reasonable. Like the prices get lower as the mass gets larger. So the bigger stones you get, the price goes down.
It's super, super cool to have. Like, I didn't expect it to be that big. When your hand went in the screen, I was like, okay, we're not really as zoomed in as I thought. What you did there is you showed that you can get a cheaper meteorite, a budget meteorite, as a unclassified, and then turn it into a classified. Now, that's going to ruin your budget because your price per gram is going to go through the roof when you throw the $300 to $400 classification fee into a 800 gram rock. It's going to affect your price per gram. But how much is it? Who can put a price tag or a value on being named as a main mass holder in a Met Bowl?
Right. This is the main mass.
Yeah.
But the great thing is this is a great pass around stone. If people pick this up and they say, "Oh my gosh, that's heavy," and that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to have.
Nice. Well, super glad that you were able to show that off. And wow, I lied. I said that you were the last one. And then we got this Canadian sneaking in under the wire. Oh my God. Jim, thank you very much. St. Louis in the house. Or actually Missouri, I should say. Where are you in Missouri?
Independence, Missouri, right next to Kansas City.
Okay, awesome. Not too bad then. Dave Kenny, you're cleaning up batter for today. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, I just grabbed a meteorite. My first ever meteorite I found in 2018 in the Atacama Desert. It was on a tour led by Steve Arnold with a group of 8 of us. We spent about 8 days in the field, and this meteorite I found in the first hour of the first day at the first site we went to.
And ruined the rest of your trip, didn't it?
Yeah, everything was downhill from there. No, we had a great
Okay.
week there. Steve is going to be featuring or talking about this meteorite in an upcoming TEDx talk next month, Steve Arnold.
Mhm.
But I thought so I won't go into a lot of detail about where it was found or how it was found, but it's an ordinary chondrite, but for me, it's like the most special meteorite
Yeah.
because it's the first one I've ever found.
Mhm.
It is oriented. It came in 2 pieces. And yeah, I'll just show you. It's heavily weathered.
Mhm.
So it came in 2 pieces and they were about 10 feet apart. So I'll try to focus this for you here. So
You might
this
have to
is,
put it in front of your
There you
jacket, in
go.
front of your chest. Oh, wow.
so that's the leading edge of this thing. You can see it's cracked and weathered. It's got cracks all on its surface here.
Is that showing crust though, where it's not?
Oh yeah, a lot of crust.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an Atacama find, all right. Weathered but
that's-
still crusted.
Oh yeah. So that's the leading edge of it. It's shaped like a bullet, essentially, or a projectile. When you put the 2 pieces together, I'll try to line up here. So you got the leading edge, the rounded edge here,
Yep.
and the tail edge here.
Oh, wow. It is.
That's a
Oh,
beauty.
I didn't
That's
expect that.
beautiful.
Ah,
so it's a puzzle piece.
It's
I
a
like
puzzle.
that.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Try to focus it here. So
Denied.
in preparation for this TEDx talk, Steve managed to get an oriented chondrite classified, which is this one. So it's Caleta El Cobre 074. So it's just published on the Metbull. I don't know if you can see, it's got slight bit of metal in there. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's reflecting. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Is that L6?
So Caleta El Cobre 074.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That is truly amazing. Did I cut you off?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to, Dave Kenny, comes in strong, man. I'll tell you right now. Everyone is talking about, hey, let's not go over $20 a gram. Well, he comes in at free. I found it on the ground.
It wasn't free.
Yeah, except for the flight and all that
Flight,
stuff.
hotel, trucks,
Little
food,
airfare and a week of your
airfare.
life, and great stories to tell for the
travel
rest of your life.
insurance.
Though.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was a great trip.
Wow. Well, guys, I hope I appreciate everyone on the crew doing show and tell tonight. It was a really active one. I only expected 3 people, including me, and we ended up getting like 7. So bonus for you guys. I'm going to try not to edit this as much and just put it out there for you guys. Hopefully this is something that is helpful and interesting to you guys. It's nice to look at the expensive museum pieces that we'll never be able to afford, but it's also really nice to come to earth a little bit, get real and say, look, if you have $100 budget, you can own a beautiful meteorite. And hopefully that's what we showed you tonight. But remember, buy very carefully from trusted sources. Be careful. Have a nice week, guys. Bye-bye.